Hey, sixth grade. I am so happy because I get to talk to you today about bird beaks. Bird beaks. These are things that we would have seen in class, but because we're not in school, we're gonna have to look at them from a video. All of these are called bone clones. So they're actually not the real beak, but they're a copy of the real beak. So I thought I'd just point out some things about bird beaks. First of all, beaks. Birds have beaks. They don't have the same thing like lips and mouths like we do in the same way, but they have beaks. This happens to be a great blue heron beak, and great blue herons have this long skewering beak because they're gonna stick their beak down in the muck and find like frogs and little fish, and so that beak allows them to sort of spear it, so they can spear it and grab their fish and eat it very easily. So this is a spearing type beak. Then our next beak, anybody got a guess what this guy is? Take a look at that. If you guessed duck, you're right. This is a duck. And one of the coolest things on here, let's see if you can see it up close. See the little ridges along the edge? This is a domestic duck bill. And they're gonna use that as like a filter. So you can imagine they put their beak down in the water, and as they strain through it, they're able to grab all that little algae and stuff off the top. So these are straining type beaks. So they're gonna use that, they're gonna grab a bunch of water in their mouth, and they're gonna capture it almost like krill, like the whales do with their krill. But they're gonna use those edges to capture all that yummy food in there. This is a straining type beak. Okay, let's take a look at another guy. Yes, they're in little cases because that protects them from people looking at them. This happens to be, anybody got a guess? See, this is a really cool one because he's got kind of a little pointed part right there on the bottom. This is the roadrunner. And the roadrunners are in the cuckoo family, so they're very aggressive. They eat lizards for lunch. There's a great little children's book called Lizards for Lunch. And they're gonna use these as more, almost like a raptor, like a bird of prey, but they're gonna use these for capturing food. So these are gonna be tearing or shredding type beaks. All right, this one's gonna look a lot like it. I'll give you a really second to think about it. If you guessed woodpecker, you'd be right. These are really strong beaks. And in fact, woodpeckers have this super cool thing that in their tongue even that wraps around their head. So their tongue is actually attached over here, and it wraps around the skull and comes out through the beak. So when they drill that hole, that tongue can shoot out there and grab the insects and come back. But this is gonna be a drilling type of a beak, really strong ability to make holes. Imagine taking your head and banging it against a tree every day to get food out. What? So these are gonna be more drilling type beaks. And the other thing is, look at the eye sockets on these. These are very cool skulls. All right, should we go smaller? I think we should go a little smaller. Let's take a look at this guy. And this one has this great yellow outer coating on its beak. This bird is gonna use this like a nutcracker. So it's gonna use these to crack open nuts. This is a cardinal's beak. Do you see that wonderful outer coating that lets him have that extra little layer of protection to crack open those beaks? These are seed eaters. So anytime you see a seed eating beak, you're gonna see that they have shorter beaks that are designed to crack open those seeds so they can get the good stuff from inside. Pretty awesome. All right, should we go bigger or small? Let's go really small. Look at this. Yes, anybody got a guess about what this guy is? And yes, that's full size. Let's see if I can hold it by the beak so you can get another look at him. You can see his little eyes in there. This is the model of a hummingbird's beak. Look at that. Hummingbirds also have very cool tongues. I don't know if you know that or not, but they have these little sort of, I want to say feather-like projections as they go along, and a tube down the middle. So when they shoots out, the fluid gets stuck in it and comes back inside. A great adaptation if you're going to be eating from flowers. I was going to use this flower, but this isn't the kind of flower they eat from. But those tube-shaped flowers that they can just put their little beak into and come right back out. This is a hummingbird's beak. So, and they're also more like an eyedropper. If you can imagine that you had an eyedropper to go in there and get that nectar and suck it out, that's what the tongue does with it, the beak as well. And we're going to end with one of our bigger beaks. This guy. Anybody got a guess? Right. It represents a great horned owl. You probably could tell it from the eye sockets, the big owl eyes, so they can see at night, the larger eyes for getting that. Also, their eyes are more forward facing, so we know that they're a predator. Those beautiful forward facing eyes. And of course, this beak, right? This shredding or tearing type of a beak. So these are gonna be very similar. They're gonna be able to reach in and they have to be able to shred that food up. Although we know that great horned owls don't always shred their food. Remember, they swallow it whole to create an owl pellet. But all of our birds of prey have the capability of both shredding and tearing with their beaks. So that's why they have these fantastic beaks here. So let's see, what are the beaks we've talked about? We've talked about spearing beaks. We've talked about filtering beaks. We've talked about seed-eating beaks. We talked about beaks that are predatory, so they're going to also be like the bird of prey where they can capture. We talked about beaks that are going to be able to peck or to drill into things. We talked about beaks that are used for nectar. And finally, we talked about our tearing or shredding beak. Birds are awesome, and they come in all kinds of varieties, and these are just a few of the beak types. I challenge you to find some even more interesting ones. It'd be great to look around on the internet or in your books and see what other kind of beaks you can see.